So welcome everybody to NIA's latest Nano in Business webinar, and we're delighted to focus on one of my favourite topics, which is how to sell stuff. Having been involved in various sectors, various high-tech sectors, where selling is absolutely the last bit of the business that you get to, it is nonetheless the most important thing that your company will do. And this is something that nanomaterials and technologies companies all over the world are discovering as they get market ready.
Of a widespread use of nanomaterials in today's product. We have a technology that can help us develop a vast array of material, which is green, scalable, modular, and effective. What we offer as a business is we design, synthesize, and scale up nanoparticle dispersions of metal, metal oxide, and sulfides. And me, it's Riccardo Momoli. I have a Master of Science in Chemistry and Material Science, and I have 10 years of experience in digital marketing, especially business to consumer. I work for 5 years as a senior account manager for Nalco Champion in the chemical business for oil and gas, and I've been now sales manager for particular material since 1 year. The challenges I'm trying to solve is how can I apply digital marketing and the experience I have to help particular materials attract more customers, and how I can translate the business to consumer experience into a business to business one. I've already talked about this, and how do we find relational customers? It's our marketing strategy. So as every business, we need a strategy to transform strangers into leads. You need to attract them, transform them into visitors, and convert them to leads. This is very basic marketing strategy. The same goes for the sales strategy. How do you serve a relational customer? You turn those leads coming from marketing into delighted customers. Both of these strategies, and that's what I want to talk about, are based on 4 pillars: the buyer personas, the message, the channel, and the journey. The buyer personas are your ideal customer. You need to define who your ideal customer is, where they are, what they think, what they talk about, and why they should buy from you. And then you need to define the message aiming to their heart and to their mind. Once you found the message, you need the right channel to deliver your message, and that's where your ideal customer is hanging out. And you need to give to your customer the right message through the right channel at the right buying process. That is the customer journey. I'll make an example. We have defined a buyer persona. We're talking about the nano ink industry. Our preferred customer is a technical manager, 30 to 50 years old, 70% probability of being male, 30% female, interested in innovation, quality, differentiation from their competition. Something he's or she interested on is their need to improve the quality of the ink they produce. So what I need to do as a company now is I need to shape a message for these buyer personas. For example, we can tell them moving from ceramic pigments coming from the milling industry and moving into nanotechnology produced inks, you can improve the quality of your printing and differentiate from your competition. But the problem is, how do I bring this message through the different channels where those technical managers are hanging around? I mean, digital marketing is great for experimenting different buyer personas and messages, and we can bring those messages in front of them at a very low cost. This is very typical for business to consumer processes, where the number of customers is very high and the frequency of interaction is very high. The problem is, how do we shift into a very low frequency marketing, very low frequency interaction and high value customer? How do we collect those data? The solution that I have for you today is thinking about the customer journey. In order to connect more frequently with your customer, I hope you see my mouse, you need to take a step back in the customer journey. So this is, for example, a typical customer journey for nano inks customers. They know nano inks is good for business. They're looking for the right nano ink to implement. They're testing it in their business and in their process, and at the end of the day, they're implementing that. That's where we're making money here. But in order to be able to interact with these people, which are very, very few in the market, we need to take a step back in the process so that we can increase the interaction with the market. To do so, to be able to do so, you also need to adapt your message. You're going to discuss and convey a different message differently on where you are in the customer journey. At the very beginning, you would like to inform, probably through website, blog articles, press release. Then the closer you get to the end of the journey, you want to educate your customer, you want to deliver value to them, and at the end of the day, you want to partner with them. So it is very important that we create content which is adapting our message to the step in the journey our customer is taking. Not only we need to adapt the message, we need to adapt the platform where we deliver this message. For example, Facebook is a very good platform for informing our customer that we exist through our blog articles or press release. Same goes with Twitter. YouTube, I guess, is a place to go, like today, where you want to learn something. You go to a webinar, you listen to a lesson. So it's a place, a platform where you want to educate your customers. LinkedIn, for example, is a place where you want to go and partner with your customer, when you want to improve your network. So my message to you here is, once you define the different messages along the customer journey, please adapt them to the platform you're going to use. Videos and curated content for Facebook, high resolution photos for Instagram, news on Twitter, and those things I'm saying to you right now are mostly common sense. The additional value I would like to bring to you is to turn them into a strategy that you can put in place. Why I'm telling you that? Because 1/3 of the marketing budget is thrown away. So 33% of the people don't know where their marketing budget is, whether their marketing budget is generating leads or not. And 6 times out of 10, we don't know whether the revenue that a customer is generating has come from which marketing channel. So another advice that I have to you today is make sure you know where the results are coming from. This is a very complicated set of information that maybe just big companies can have, but this shows how you should look into, for example, the closed versus lost versus won opportunities ratio that are coming from the different channels that you have. Making sure you know where the results are coming from also helps you compare the different strategies you have, both online and offline, both on the conversion rate and on the average time to the deal. So you could compare, for example, leads that you're acquiring at events with leads that you're acquiring through your websites or through your social media. In our case study, we were trying to sell nanoparticles to PhD and researchers. So what we've done first, I defined a buyer personas. We defined the location where they're from, their age, what their interests are, and their educational level. We shaped a message directly to those buyer personas. We're telling them it's time consuming to synthesize your own nanoparticles. Stop wasting your time, test us for free. And then we share the message, of course, adapted to each channel in order to collect the leads. And we define that the step in the journey that we want to reach this audience is the very beginning of it. No commitment, low risk for the customer, very low barrier to entry. And the results are these. So what you see in dark gray are the industry benchmarks for the lead acquisition cost. That is, the cost is you're spending to acquire a name, an email, and a probable project. So we invested in Facebook, Instagram, we invested in LinkedIn, and we invested in Google. As you see, our performance here, which has been collected over hundreds of statistics, is comparable to the industry benchmarks. But where we perform very well, it's Google advertising. And this makes a little bit of sense because people are looking for nanoparticles on Google. So it is a proactive approach. They're looking for something and we're going to offer it to them. While on social media, you're there to be entertained. You're certainly not looking for nanoparticles while you're on Facebook. But at the same time, you're exposed to content. So this is a more reactive approach. So consider that in your marketing strategy. I think I'm going to take this slide later in the process, a little bit too much detail. I want to discuss also what we could have done better. I think we did not spend enough time at the beginning to select the right buyer personas. So part of our budget has been spent on non-relevant customers. We should have tested less countries because we do not have enough statistics for each country in order to have a clear winner, which is the country in Europe, which is delivering the lowest cost for acquisition. I cannot answer that question. So that's something I would have done differently. And something which is really hard for us, we are a startup and it is very hard for us to produce relevant content at the beginning. There's no case history, there's just literature data. And so it is very hard to do that. So that's something I would have concentrated better in the beginning. So my advice to you is sit together with your team and define objectives for your marketing strategy. And at the beginning, create as much content as you can. Test your buyer personas, your ideal customers, and test your message and your channels as well. Be resilient because it didn't take a week to find the right formula, and make sure you track, measure, and optimize because as you've seen, 1/3 of the companies do not know where their leads are coming from. We are a small startup and we found that it's very hard for them to sit on a very low budget. So you need to use the skills of all your team. You need to take advantage of the different voices and writing styles that you have and ask everyone to contribute. For example, we found it was very useful to use our personal profile on social media to share the message and also to put a little bit of day-to-day life in our work, taking cool picture of us in the lab, and make sure that your decisions are based on data. So my conclusion are that a digital strategy is just one of the tools you have of a more comprehensive marketing strategy. I think digital is great for startups because you can test a lot of things with a very little budget. At the same time, reaching a high frequency of interaction with your audience is challenging. So you make sure you keep your budget under control and you measure your KPI. In order to do that, to increase the frequency, think about your customer journey and take a step back. Ask yourself, what can I provide them along their journey? And how should I adapt my message where they are and the platform they use to deliver this message? And make sure you define where your customer is digitally and measure your digital strategy effectively. I think it's never too early to start marketing your business. And the most common threat connecting startups is the uncertainty about which marketing steps they should prioritize. At the end, you need to connect with your audience, engage with them, and establish yourself as a source of unique and helpful content. And make sure you measure your KPIs and your return of investment. Thank you, Claire.
Thanks very much, Riccardo. That was amazing. I think that was incredibly helpful. And as you say, a lot of it is just common sense, but it's something that most companies probably do not do because there's always something more important or urgent to get done on that particular day. And we've been trying really hard in NIA to increase our LinkedIn spread, which has really worked as we're up to getting towards 7,000 by the end of this year. but we don't use other forms apart from our newsletter. And I think we should probably start looking ourselves at more targeted positioning of messages. So hopefully that's something that we could discuss with more NEA members as well, as effective way they can use. So thanks very, very much indeed, Ricardo. And Ricardo will be around at the end of this recorded period at about 4 o'clock for Q&A with other NEA members. So I will now
Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much indeed. So we will now move over to Nanomakers for the next presentation. So I am just going to go and find their screen while they introduce themselves.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Yeah, hello.
Hopefully
Hello,
you should have the webinar invite with you right now.
Yes, I'm accepting now, so you can see my screen normally.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, can you see it? Yeah, so Jean-François Perret, I'm the CEO of Nanomakers.
And Yuyan Miao, I'm a commercial engineer at Nanomakers.
Okay, so let's first we'll go to something much more concrete than what was showed before. Okay, next. Well, what are we? So we design and produce nanopowders, patented nanopowders, which are used as material boosters by our customers, and in such a way that our customers disrupt traditional materials due to the improvement of properties which is brought by our nanopowders. History, so mostly innovation. So CEA, the French Investigation Center for Atomic Energy and so on, started to develop the process in 1985. Its process is laser pyrolysis. You can see an image here. And the company was founded in 2010. We started to produce samples. Sample is key due to the site process. We'll see afterwards. So in 2012, we started to produce powders and samples, and we applied several patents after the foundation. But most important one is for the battery business, the carbon-coated silicon. This patent was filed in 2012, and we started commercial deliveries. So we started samples in 2012, and in 2015 we started to deliver commercial quantities monthly to states. Our first customer was an American one, and so in 2017, to follow up the development of the sales, we increased the capacity of the reactor. We invested in an equipment that allowed us to go from batch production to continuous process production. We've got certification also in 2017, certification for ISO 9000, and in 2018, as a mark here, as a milestone. So our turnover in 2014 was 8 times the one of 2014, and we started investing in the second reactor also. The process, it's a we start with gaseous reactants. We use CO2 laser beam to break down the molecules, and so we have atoms, and we assemble the atoms to produce silicon carbide, carbon-coated silicon, or pure silicon. We'll see after the uses. So we have try to go quickly to go to the sales process here, and so we have different products which are silicon-based ones. So around 75, 40 nanometers for the smallest one, and 75 for the biggest one. This is at the beginning we produced from 0 to 100 nanometers, and in order to improve our industrial efficiency, we focused on 2 sizes, 35, 40, and 75 nanometers, and which allow us to improve our production process. And we deliver under different forms, either free powder or compacted powder, or even suspensions. We have three different applications. So time-wise, so linked. So from left to the right, the maturity of the time to market. So the first one is a semiconductor. Second one is in the battery market. And last one is a metals reinforcement. So just to show that we are in a very different markets, and so we have a bench of actors, even if we just focus on the R&D department of our potential customers. So it's a very great quantity of potential customers, and also a large quantity of skills that we have to develop to be able to speak correctly with our potential customers. If I come back to the first one, so it's the value proposition is the low cost of ownership of the equipment, of the production equipment to produce semiconductor, because we improve the lifetime of the cells which are here, and so the availability of the reactor, of the etching reactor, is much higher. Yeah? And so this is marketing, and this produces most of our turnover. For the battery, so it's linked to the quality, intrinsic quality of the silicon, which allows a higher density, much higher density than graphite, which is today the anode material for the lithium-ion batteries. And so this will be marketing next year. And so metals is marketing on the longer term, and the value proposition is to produce lighter parts for additive manufacturing, made by additive manufacturing in aluminum powder. And so our target is to produce a nano composite aluminum nano powder, or aluminum plus nano silicon carbide. So very different things. From the beginning, we exported most of our production, samples at the beginning, and then commercial production. So 99% outside of Europe. Our biggest customer is in the States, but the highest number of customers are in Japan, in this field of the advanced materials. And now let's come to the sale process. Yeah? So first, the fact. So we supply for most of our applications. Our product is an additive. So we are just at the beginning of the value chain. So it means that when we develop a new application, so first we deal with the N+1 actor in the value chain, which deals with the N+2, N+5, and so on, till the end user. And at almost all the stages, we have qualification processes, which can be successful or not. If it's not, okay, it's a pity. And if it's successful, it's quite long anyway. So the global process is quite long. You see just after. We'll see after we have. So we assess between 8 to 10 years the time between the first contact and the time to market. So the first sale of commercial quantities. Second point, our nano applications are always innovative. So generally, all our applications are innovative all around the table. But so it means that it doesn't exist. So there is no possibility to carry out a real market study, for instance, or to have a real knowledge. So we must, most of our sales process at the beginning is trial and errors. So we try to find new applications, and we check if there is really a market, if the price we can sell, or if the market can offer a good price, and so on. And third one. So our products are high value added products. So it means that so they are sophisticated, and we are not targeting mass market but niche markets. Then the example to how to translate so our actions into a business development. So the first one. We spoke so in the semiconductor to increase the sales quality, the sales performance. So this lasted 6 years. So 6 years R&D, because the first. So we started to sell in 2015, but before we shipped and sold samples. 6 years between 2015 to 2009. And in fact, as I said, the company was founded in 2010, and so because in fact the first contact was tied before the foundation of the company, even before the foundation of the company, and so 6 years is quite quick, let's say. After for the battery, so I said that time to market is estimated 2020, how to develop. So as I said before, so we identify potential applications, and after, so the problem, not the problem, but a key question is to convince. So that's the third point, is to convince our partners, our potential customers, who are materials and chemical company and chemical leaders, technological leaders, that what they can do with us is very important and must be at higher in a higher ranking of their R&D priorities. And so one of the advantages of the R&D project which are financed in Europe or elsewhere is that so the cost is compensated, and so for us it's a really key point to start speaking about concrete things with our customers, because if we cannot develop a proof of concept with our customers, they don't listen to us, and so we speak in an empty place. Yeah, and so we have not the possibility to develop this proof of concept by ourselves, and so we need this kind of project to start interacting with our potential future customers. Last but not least, so when we identify a market, we have to assess the added value that our product brings to the host material, so our customer's material, in order to calculate which kind of price he can pay for our product. And if it's not, if the price, the added value can bring to our product is not high enough, so we have to discard the application. How to talk to potential customers? First, analyzing their needs, and so what is their target? Which kind of improvement do they want? So it's general words, because sometimes we have very skilled, very competent customers, and they know already which has been made in all the world, and they have already ideas about the target of the project they want to develop with us. And when we say customers, so it's not only direct customers, but also end customers, because these ones are the ones who drive the market in a given application. Obviously, we have to we need to have the required documentation, and documentation is based also on a kind of market intelligence. So we develop something we have not written here. We develop a market intelligence work, and in such a way that what we put in our documentation is in agreement with the key personas, as was described before. They must be interested, obviously, by what we write, and so we propose samples, but so our samples generally are not free, so we invoice our samples, and we just propose 3 samples for the beginning, and so that's how to do it. And just a note, generally our customers, even if they are great names of the chemical industry worldwide, they are not very good at handling nanomaterials. This is a key point, and that's why we have developed in-house competencies, and we have invested in a laboratory to do a part of the job of our customers, in order to help them to use the nanomaterials in general. One of the key points is the homogeneity of the dispersion they can reach with the nanomaterials. Okay. Resource and skills. So Claire said that so quite often the founders are scientists. Okay, so it's difficult to go from scientist to a salesperson. Okay, we have the chance here, nanomakers, to have experience in all the fields of the company. Technical matters, obviously, but also operation. So when I say technical, that's R&D, and so technical matters, process improvement, and also so sales and marketing, and the other skills we need in a company. So the market intelligence, market and technological intelligence We have regular meetings where we review the information we have identified by different ways, and so in such a way that we can identify. We can identify either new customers, new application, new competitors also, and so this is really key, and it's not very expensive, in fact. Reactivity to customers' requests, so it's a global sales and marketing skill. Yeah. Being realistic, yes. So, but here that's when you speak with the shareholders or the potential investors. So obviously you need to be optimistic, but not too much. Yeah. Okay. You must have some kind of realism also. Ambitious always we have to be, yes. And globally, so it's important to have a vision of what will be the company within some years, and to go in this direction and to do everything to reach this vision. But we must also be ready to catch business opportunities. What does it mean? So it means that as soon as we have something which is different of the vision we have developed, so we have to assess if this can enter into the vision, or if there is some issues, and if it's something that can help to develop the midterm vision. So you have to catch the opportunity and to do everything to enter into this new activity, this new field. Okay, so that's the last one. How to start the business development. So marketing, so you have to know. So as you saw, for us, it's quite complicated because we are active in very different markets. So semiconductor, but in fact it's the accessories for semiconductors. Batteries, it's completely different. Metallic, so metallic powders. And but we once again, so the market intelligence and technological intelligence is key to identify where the market is going. And after you will be in position to catch the opportunity. So market intelligence was one of the source of information is obviously events of conferences, which regard the targeted markets. Nanomaterials, but what we saw is that it's so nanomaterials is something. So we go yearly to Tokyo Nanotech, which is very good, but it's not only because it's nano. It's because a lot of companies which are interested in advanced materials attend this kind of exhibition. And generally, what is more profitable for us is to attend the exhibition which are linked to our markets. So exhibition linked to semiconductor market, exhibition linked to battery, and so on. Yeah. And to get in touch with the customers. So from the beginning, I didn't say it, but when we saw the world map, we have founded Nanomakers in Japan from the beginning in 2010, and we have an agent since that date. And so our agent is key to reach the customers, because making business in one country is not the same as making business in another country. And you need good partners. And yes, that's how to reach the customers. Local agent, yeah, we said it. And after, so we try to improve our competencies by training ourselves also. That's all, yeah. And of course, it's very important to as our product is really a very technical sales and marketing activity. So our agent, also they are good. They are good in making business. They are good in selling, but they very often they are not skilled enough. Although we try to train them, they are not skilled enough in order to explain to our customers what are the benefits of our products, and most of all, they are not able to listen and to understand the real requirements of our customers. And really, for us, it's key to face the customers in order to be able to ask the right question and not to accept always what they say, but also to challenge the ideas about nano. But because once again, competence on nano is yes, well developed around the table, but even in the chemical world leaders, it's not so well developed. Yeah. And so it's key to meet them, and after, okay, to do all the sales work. Yeah. And at the same time, obviously, we complete our market intelligence by getting information for the customers. I think I'm at the end. Yeah, okay. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much indeed. And that was another extremely excellent look at a slightly different company setup in the way that you undertake your business development and have people in different places also to do the selling. And it is completely correct about being able to listen to potential customers. And a really good salesperson I knew said, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you use them in that ratio. So it's so much more than just knowing about the science. So that brings us to our last presenter, and I'm going to take the slides back, I think, if the, oh, here we go, my slides, here we are. I'm going to take the slides back and introduce our last presenter of the afternoon, Steve Wilczynski from BN Nano. Can you hear us okay, Steve?
Yes, I can, thank you.
That's lovely. I'm just going to put your slides into presentation mode. And you can just tell me when to change them. So take it away, Steve.
Okay, awesome. So first of all, thank you very much to NIA for giving us the chance to speak to you today. We're going to talk a little bit about how we did it, about our story. And believe me, we fully understand that this is not the only way to do things. A lot of what we have found that has worked is because of the mistakes that we've made along the way. And we're just glad to have the opportunity to share this with you this afternoon. So next slide, please. The first place that we need to start as a company and as people is when we formed this company, we wanted to make sure that we had a true passion and a true belief, an unwavering belief that we could grow a business out of our idea. And we're a group of material scientists that do have a bit of a business background, and we're a bit of historians. And if you look back on time, many of the significant ages have been defined by materials. You've got the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, the Silicon Age. It was these new materials that really helped make these new ideas and products come into reality. And in the 21st century, the demands are even more rigorous than they've ever been. And we believe that there truly is a need for a materials revolution that Nano can lead the way in, and we believe that our material can help us get there. And it has really been our passion and belief that has driven the ability to sell our material. Next slide, please. What we make is we make a version of a boron nitride nanotube. We're one of the few companies in the world that can produce this right now. And it is an additive material, much like we heard in the last presentation. And I don't plan on spending any time on the technical merits of this material, but it is something that you add to other materials to make them better. You can improve the existing properties, you can enable new materials, or you can develop new products. So it is something that we add to other materials to use. In this powder form, this nanomaterial was what we believed would be our only product. And much of like we've heard in the past 2 presentations, through listening to the needs and wants of our customers, we have evolved that into some other things that have been a bit easier, to sell. Next slide. We're a pretty young company. We were officially founded in 2016, but our story really started probably in 2014 when we began to do the homework for this organization. And when we founded our company, we didn't really tell anybody what we were doing, more so because we didn't want to create any unrealistic expectations on ourselves or our customers. In our previous experiences, we having been engaged with companies that had promised that they could deliver new materials, and then when we tried to place an order, they were not able to do so. And we didn't want to do that. So we spent 2016 really identifying the equipment we would use, the process we would use, and the methods to do things. We're self-funded for most of the year, so we were very frugal. And when we got to a point where we believed we had a complete story, we engaged some angel investors that we had experience with, and they agreed to fund us. So in January 1 of 2017, we began our manufacturing. And throughout 2017, we also didn't really tell anyone what we were doing. We selectively communicated with a few key individuals, and we actually had our first sale in 2017 to the US government, but we didn't come out of what we call stealth mode until 2018. Another key reason was we wanted to make sure that we had our intellectual property filed properly so that we could speak openly about what we were doing without putting any of that in risk. So in 2018, we had our production fully operational, we had our process fully developed, and we began planting seeds with a very small team of individuals, really just the scientists and engineers that founded the company. It wasn't until 2019 that we started to build a sales team and started to really grow our sales. And I'll speak to how we did that in just a moment. But what we've done now is we've positioned ourselves going into 2020, where even though we are a nanotech company, our challenges are traditional business challenges in the future. We need to sell. We need to sell our products. And if we don't find a way to do that in 2020, that will put us in jeopardy to continue in the future. Next slide, please. So in 2018 and going into 2019, we wanted to develop what we consider to be a real world business plan or sales plan for us. This is clearly not necessarily going to be reflected in any textbook, but this would meet the demands and the resources of our company. The first thing that we settled on was our goal was to sell product. We were trying to become a profitable company. We were not interested in serial invention or lining our walls with patents. If those things came about through our operations, that was fine, but our goal was to sell. And we knew that along the way in selling, there would probably be an opportunity to move up the value chain when possible. And we wanted to be sure that we only did that when it was necessary and when we were able to do it, which will allow us to keep our focus. We also knew we needed to have the proper message, and I think we've heard that a couple of times already today as well. And for us, it was important to be able to articulate the problem that we would be solving for our customers and what value we could bring them. And we also had to clearly identify our ideal customer. And I think this was referred to as the buyer persona previously. And that was critical for us. We knew it had to be a customer that had a history of adopting new materials, that had some technical expertise, was not too risk averse, and was probably not the market leader in their segment, but one that wanted to gain market share or be able to introduce new technologies into their products to help grow their business as well. And then along the way, we've always had our eye on those very large companies that could not only form a strategic partnership that could bring in recurring revenues, but that might one day help in an exit strategy if we decided to move in that direction. And then I think the most critical thing has been that even though we are in nanotech, the relationships are what drive the business. The only way we can sell to people is to convince them that we are competent and that they have confidence in us and our materials. And it might not be that first conversation, but it might be the second or third where the sale happens. So it's always been critical and always been in our minds that the relationship is just as important as the technology. Next slide, please. And with the plan in place, we had to then map out our sales team. We were a small company at this time. We had about 5 people. And we understood that it was going to require everyone in the company to contribute to the sales team. The sales effort would always be part technical and part business. And we also knew that we could not afford a full-time salesperson. And we were actually advised very early on by our core team of advisors and investors to not hire a salesperson at the onset. The reasoning was that initially you will be primarily customer service and business development. And until you can clearly articulate to a salesperson what their expected revenues to be brought in are, it doesn't make sense to have one. And that should be a multiple of their total cost, which is their salary, their expenses, and their benefits. In the US, that's probably around somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000 a year. So unless we could find a clear path to $300,000-$400,000 annual revenues from that one salesperson, they advised us to hold off. So what that forced us to do was to become creative. And what we did is we found external resources. These were individuals that had a history of selling technology or materials in the past that could take on BA Nano essentially as a client. And their compensation has been structured in such a way that they're only paid commissions on sales. And in some cases, they've been given some equity through stock options in BA Nano. Through this activity, we've been able to add 5 sales people doing sales for us. No, not one of them is full-time for BA Nano exclusively, but we do have 5 individuals contributing to the team at essentially no cost or no out-of-pocket to BA Nano. We also found it very helpful to get distributors, especially in the international marketplace, and we have established a distributor in Japan. We've established a distributor in the EU. We're working towards one in India and potentially South America. And these are essentially commission only as well. So we don't have to compensate them unless they have a sale. We've also taken full advantage of our investor network, our friends and family, to provide contacts and introductions. And then we've selectively reached out to some of the real influencers in academia to help and convince them to take on our material as part of their research projects, which as they begin to publish and as they begin to talk about our materials, it is additional publicity for what we do. The other thing that we found critical is, the addition of using all of the IT technology that's available to you. We use different CRMs and other ways to communicate with our teams and to make sure that we are all clearly communicating the same message. Next slide, please. So what we've done tactically is we also took the approach that we want to spend as little as possible, but we want to be effective. So we broke this out into 3 strategies: the no cost strategy, a lower cost, and a higher cost. And the no cost strategy has been pretty effective for us. There are a number of organizations that want to sell you marketing reports for thousands and thousands of dollars, but you can usually find last year's or the years before online for free. There's not too many changes year over year, so this is a good start. We've also taken advantage of things like Google Scholar and Google Patents. You can very easily see who has an interest in your materials and begin to build a sales funnel, or if you will, or a contact sheet. And then the other thing that we've done that was very effective is all of the conferences and trade shows typically have exhibitor maps that are readily available on their websites. So what we do is we virtually attend these by going into these conferences, gathering the contact information and the list of companies, and developing very easily, very quickly, and free lists of people to call and really introduce ourselves to. Take that a step further, the low cost, our website is always effective. The local industry groups and organizations, and then we tried to see who we could drive to in a day and visit. So we sort of mapped this out in 3 different radius of distances. Trade shows, walking the floor, has been typically something that only costs your travel. And then what we found, and we were quite skeptical of this, is Google Ads has been quite effective for us. And in the last few weeks, as we're preparing for some meetings with our advisors and investors, what we've come to realize is out of our opportunities that are still open, ones that have closed in our sales funnel, more than 90% of that was found either through our website, through Google Ads, or through our activities at trade shows. And this really validated that advice that we were given by our advisors, that what our salespeople are doing at this point is more business development and is more customer relations. So we're not quite ready to add that salesperson, but we have been fairly effective in growing our sales. So next slide. One of the most important things that has really come out of our interactions and through listening to our customers is that we need to have a minimum data set when we engage new communications. And what we mean by this is these are the questions that you can anticipate you will be asked by the automotive industry or by the textiles industry or by aerospace. And it is a minimum amount of data so that you can answer those first level questions to help speed them along in trying out your material. It is unfortunate that most of these are unique to the different industries, but there has been overlap. And sometimes it's in areas you wouldn't expect. We've actually found quite a bit of overlap in, say, textiles and aerospace in the information that they're looking for. And that has really helped us to hone in on which markets to target with our limited resources. It's also been important for us to keep this data set at the minimum. You can spend a lot of time and money creating unlimited amounts of data that may or may not be necessary for your customers. And when you do find someone that asks for something specific, what we found is that's an excellent opportunity to engage with that customer in a project to help them provide some revenue for us to find out information that will ultimately benefit us in many different areas. Next slide. And the other thing that we found is as we've developed these minimum data sets, each industry will typically call the same thing something different. And we found that it has been very valuable for us to understand that different vocabulary before we engage with the customers. Because there is no faster way to lose credibility than to be sitting in front of a customer and appearing to not know what you're talking about. And just taking the time to understand and use their terms has really been beneficial for us. The other thing that we've learned is that price clearly matters. And in the instances where the individuals and organizations that we are talking to immediately ask, how much is this going to cost? They have always turned out to be not a customer that would be selling to in what we've experienced to be maybe the next 3 to 6 months. Most of our customers are all relational in that we have to spend time with them, but we can quickly identify through some short conversations the ones that might be 2 or 3 years down the road as opposed to the next 3 to 6 months. We have also found that pricing is one of your most valuable pieces of your intellectual property portfolio. While it's okay to publicly state a suggested price or a starting point, it's not in your best interest to let everyone else know what they're buying material for. And in our case, what we found is it even makes sense for us to have specific products and data sheets for particular industries so that they're slightly different, but different enough to where we can justify different pricing for the more high value customers that are willing to pay more versus the more high volume that need it to be less. Another critical point that we have had to stress with our sales team is understand that the words you use and the information that you present could potentially jeopardize your IP if you do not do it properly. So it's critical to have an IP strategy that everyone understands and is clearly articulated, because you never want to risk your IP for an immediate sale. The patent system has changed recently here in the US to first to file. So it is very important that we make sure that we do all of our filing before we talk about things publicly and even privately. So we're careful to disclose as little as possible, even when we're under NDA. Next slide. So what this has meant, what all of this work has meant to us is, as we've engaged with our customers, when we've had a plan and we've had a sales team, is we have to listen to the needs and wants of the customers. The last presentation hit on something that we run into all the time as well. There is not a lot of understanding on how to handle and how to integrate nanomaterials. So as we naively thought that having a pure powder would be the best thing, we quickly learned that there were many customers that wanted to use our material but could only do so if we provided it to them in a different form. They told us, if you could pre-mix this in our chemistry, or if you could mix this in water, we could use it much more easily. So we listened to that, and we developed new products that allowed us to move up the value chain while at the same time making our material easier to use. So by doing that, now we have high purity powders, and we have pre-mixed chemistries. We were then asked, can we master batch polymers or plastics or make some metal powder mixtures? And we've developed that product as well. And then recently, we've been asked by a lot of composite companies to produce a type of prepreg or a precursor for some of their materials. And that's one of the things that we're developing for 2020. So as we've heard, I think, from everyone, listening more than speaking and having an open mind is an excellent way to help grow your sales. The other thing that is very important that we have learned from our mistakes is when a customer tells you they want something, don't immediately talk them out of that sale by telling them that you can't. It's important to stay focused and to stay within your competency. But if it is a customer telling you that they want to buy something, that is a very important piece of information that you should listen to. Next slide. And then what we found is there are a number of ways to understand if you're being successful. Revenue is clearly an easy one, but what we found is there are other currencies besides cash that bring a lot of value into the organization. We have been very reluctant to give samples for free because we haven't had good results with that, but we've been very eager and open to providing reduced cost samples in exchange for information specific to the performance and application that our customers are going to be used, to any information they can give you on industry trends or in their sales and marketing, their target prices, or how they see growth. And if they could share how are we relative to the competitors in the marketplace. So what we found really in 2019 and in 2018, the information that we gathered through these partnerships was probably more valuable to us than bringing in a little bit of revenue, because it has positioned us very well to develop our strategy moving forward. We've also realized that the relationships that we're building and the way we engage with our customer is helping to build that industry awareness. A lot of individuals that we have never had direct communications with are reaching out to us and addressing us as leaders in the marketplace, and are asking us to participate in some of their conferences or their events, or to write for their publications. And it has been essentially almost, it has been refreshing that we've been able to get the message out without spending a lot of money in on sales and marketing. Next slide, please. And this is, again, we understand fully that this is probably a different way to go about doing things. We are focused on, growing our business, but we've been focused on doing it very frugally because we've done so with limited resources. We don't know a lot, and we understand that we don't know a lot, but what we've come to realize is when you set your plan, you need to execute to your plan, and listen to advisors and people that you trust, but also trust your instincts. If it's not time for you to spend money in areas where people are pushing you, maybe it's not the best place for your resources. And it's been critical for us to stay open-minded but focused. Listen to your customers. That has been probably the most critical thing for us. And relationships do matter, and being creative with your model and having patience to see the fruits of your labor and of your decisions is critical as well. So again, certainly not the only way to do it, but we would hope that there might be one or two things from our experience that may help others. So thank you very much.
No, thank you indeed. That was extremely interesting and very useful on a very practical level. So I want to just take a few moments to wrap up the presentations that we've had today before we go and have a short discussion between the members that we have on the webinar. And I mean, really, I have 8 pages of notes from the free presentations that we had, but really looking at successful sales, it's information about your clients and the markets in which you are trying to access. You know your material better than anybody else, but of course you probably know very little about the type of people that you're going to sell to and the type of products that they're going to need. So it's super important to go and do your homework, because it's an entirely new job description that you have to start developing. And your role as the seller of the keeper of this particular nanomaterial is to build confidence in the whole process for the person that is going to buy it. It's not just confidence in the technical performance of that particular material, it's how it is going to help them to achieve the rest of their aim so that they can then make money off it at the end. And we've heard at least 2 of the presentations here from BN Nano and from nanomakers talking about helping them to handle materials better, giving them more information than you would just do sort of on a piece of paper in the box as you sell it to them. And of course, that also opens up how you can expand your own sales capability through altering formulation of products, deepening a relationship with the person that you are selling those materials to. And it's also very interesting about going back to Ricardo's presentation. It's amazing how diverse you can actually be. And I'm already scribbling down loads of notes about how we may use various online platforms. Others are available, I'm sure. But it's also, for me, the skills development is very important. And what I have seen is it's often a great opportunity to find somebody who actually really enjoys doing this inside your company. And if you find that person, they may already be in the lab, they may be somewhere else, but if somebody enjoys doing this, particularly the diversity of sales strategies and implementation that you might have, that's really great. It's much, much more likely to be successful with somebody who's enthusiastic about it than with somebody who doesn't really want to do it and it's something but they feel they ought to. So it's a way to build really great career development away from the lab for a lot of skilled scientists who may not want to stay at the bench for the rest of their career. So I would really like to thank all of our 3 speakers. This was an opportunity for them to promote themselves as well as address the topic, and they actually all did a terrible job of promoting themselves because they all did really well and stayed to the topic and talked about how they sell. So I would really like to thank them for their time and efforts, because obviously it took quite a lot of preparation for today's webinar. So I'm going to close the recording now and send this to all of the registered delegates, and I'm going to say to the non-members, you can go off and have a cup of coffee now. And I say to our members, you can also grab a quick cup of coffee, but stay on the line, and we look forward to a short discussion later. So thank you once again. And before I go, I forget to do my own sales in that we have our next open regulatory webinar on the 10th of December, if I remember correctly, but you can register for that on our website. And of course, we have our excellent symposium in Brussels on March the 18th next year, where we'll actually be looking at communications around nanotechnologies and materials, not just for sales and marketing purposes, but for building trust and a relationship for the sector as a whole. Again, that's on our website, and we will remind you about it incessantly until you come, and we look forward to seeing you next year. So thank you very much for you all coming. We had a great turnout today, and I look forward to speaking to members in a moment. Thank you very much.